Crops and seasons. So from agricultural point of view, the crops are generally classified into two seasons. So one is Rabi season and another one is Kharif season. So the Rabi season is from October to March and Kharif season is from April to September. Usually in North India, crops are generally classified as Rabi and Kharif. The Rabi crops are used to sow during the autumn season and harvested in spring. And the Kharif crops are sown during the beginning of southwest monsoon and are harvested in autumn. So this is why the Rabi crops are also called as a winter crop and Kharif crops are called as a summer crops. So if we take South India, then there is no any kind of distinct seasons, right? So the crops are grown and they are classified as a wet crops and dry crops. They are not mentioned with reference to the harvesting period or else a sowing period, just like the Rabi crops and the Kharif crops. So if we take the South India, then as I said that we are taking it as a wet crop and dry crop. So if we consider wet crop, then under wet crop we have rice and sugar cane, and under dry crops we have wheat, maize, rahi, cotton and groundnut. So if we consider the crops, then the crops are classified in generally as wet crop, dry crop, garden crop, summer crop and winter crop. So we know that winter crop is a Rabi crop and summer crops are monsoon crop and as well as the hot weather crop. So the monsoon crop is called as the Kharif crop, right? And this wet crop, dry crop are related to South India, as there is no any distinct season. And the garden crops are like, you know, it is supposed to give some kind of a care in means of watering, that is irrigation, throughout the year, right? And if we consider wet crop, then wet crop is that requires water for irrigation and the crops are cultivated, right? So as I said, the example that is rice and sugar cane, and if we consider dry crops, then the dry crops are not require more water for irrigation. So it is something like, you know, the instance which I have given you is the wheat, maize, rahi, cotton, groundnut. You know, we don't need to do any irrigation with a more intense care. And when we consider the summer crop, that is Kharif crops, so I told that rice, maize, cotton, tobacco, groundnut as example. Yeah, we can consider these as an example, and they are under the period of April to September. And when and the next is winter crop, that is a Rabi crop. So the best example for a Rabi crop is wheat, barley, peas and gram. So here the variation would be almost 1 to 3 months, okay? And the sugar cane can be brought under both type of crops, that is Kharif and as well as the Rabi crop, okay? So in general, then crops under Rabi will be wheat, barley, linseed, mustard, gram, potatoes. Okay, so and the cultivation is from October to March. That is a period of cultivation. So that is what we call it as a winter crop. So the ratio of area of irrigation during the Kharif season to that of the Rabi season, right? It is called as a crop ratio, or else the Kharif Rabi ratio, right? So if we take this ratio, then that would be in generally 1:2. Okay, so that is 1 represents the Kharif and the 2 represents the Rabi. Next is a cash crop. So cash crop is having more a higher market value, and usually that non-food crops are called as cash crops. And say for an example, cotton is not an edible, right? So it is a not food crop. And also that whichever product that we cannot consume directly, that will also comes under the cash crops. So yeah, cotton is also, not consumed directly. I mean, in terms of clothing also we need to process. Jute, yeah, we need to process. So tea, yeah, we can't take it directly, but we need to do some process and then we can have it, right? Let it be tea or else sugar cane, or all other things, all these things we are not supposed to do some process. Or tea, we need to make it as a tea dust. Coffee, we need to make it something. Coffee bean, from the coffee bean we need to make it as a coffee powder. Sugar cane as a sugar. So likewise, okay, so we need to do some process which cannot be direct consume. So in short, that they can only be sold for processing and consumed later in the suitable form as a products. So such crops are called as cash crops. So rotation of crops is that suppose if we are going to cultivate a same kind of a crop throughout the year, and then one after another, if we are going to use the same crop, then what happens is that fertility of the soil is quite reduced, and which also leads to the defect of the required nutrition for that crops. So what we do is that we will do some shifting work, like okay, now if I'm going to put some jute, then after a while then I may put some other, like cotton, or else some kind of wheat, barley, or I can do something, shifting of another crop. So the process of cultivating different crops one after another is known as the rotation of crops. And when we do this kind of a process, it increases the fertility of the soil and reduces diseases of crops and wastages due to insects, and also increase the yield of crops. Core water, core period, and core depth. So the first watering of the crops after the crop has grown for a few centimeter height is called as a core watering. And that period during the core watering is called as a core period. And then the depth of water which is supplied, I mean the water is supplied during the period, is called as the core depth. Okay, so next is paleo irrigation. So in paleo irrigation, that sometimes in the initial stage before the crop is sown, the land used to be very dry. Suppose if the land is very dry, then we are supposed to wet it with water so that it will be feasible for sowing the crop, right? So under such condition, that is to water, to moisture the soil before the sowing the seeds, that is called as paleo irrigation. And usually this is done for rabi crops. And after that, after complete saturation with water, then no need of further watering. It can be done periodically or else whenever it is required.